This is Let's Finally Talk, a heart-to-heart with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, live streaming every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Join me on YouTube at Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, on Facebook at Dr. Jacalyn, and on Instagram at Dr. Jacalyn, as seen and heard on the USA Global TV and Radio Network worldwide. We've earned the YouTube Silver Creator Award, and I've earned the 100 Global Top Women Icons in Media. My TV shows are Iconic Women, Creating a World of Possibilities, Judgment, the Hidden Sin, A Woman's Prerogative, Sisterhood Across Borders, It's Your Healthy Lifestyle, and the latest updates. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow. We're streaming every night live on Let's Finally Talk. Hello and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, and also to Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, both of our channels on YouTube. This show is Let's Finally Talk, and it's with me, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. So if you're joining for the first time, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. This show is all focused and based on what I have trademarked and what I teach, which is known as elevated listening. And so my role is as the listening mentor, and I give you feedback based on my experience, my education, and the fact that I've either produced or hosted at least 9,000 TV shows. So there's a lot of experience that I have and a lot of knowledge. And so today our topic is beyond challenges, showing up anyway. And I feel like this is a really timely topic because it is the holiday season, and there are many times that we make commitments to do things and then something else comes up or we become overwhelmed. And so I'm going to share with you a few ideas that I really feel are important, and I hope that you will too. And basically, they are around the fact of when are we actually setting a boundary, or when are we making an excuse? When are we giving ourselves grace, and when are we pretty much quitting on ourselves? And I've been talking to a number of people just on a regular basis because I interact with a lot of people, and I've heard some different stories of what people have said. And so I want to examine the deeper meaning of what it means to show up, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually as well. And so if you have ever had any challenges and you've decided to quit something or to leave something, or maybe just turn your back on something, there's probably a really good reason for it that you might not even be aware of. And we're also going to look at how to break the cycle of excuses. So many times when we actually commit to doing something, we may not be totally committed doing it in the first place. We may be doing it for someone else based on lower vibrations such as fear. If I don't do this, what will happen? So I've talked a lot about the fact that we can come from a place of fear or we can come from a place of love. And so when we encounter a challenge, based on whether or not we're coming from fear or love, may determine how we're actually going to show up. And when we are in our fear mode or anxiety or depression, and we are making decisions that might not be best for us, I always coach people and say two things. One, this is a temporary time in your life. It may feel like it's forever, but if you've lived for so many years, you'll look back and say, okay, I was going through something and it felt like it was forever, but it was really for so many years or so many months. And do you have the ability, the skill set, the tools, the mentors, the coaches, the network to help you sort through what you're dealing with? And if not, do you need professional help? So that's something I think you really need to ask yourself. When you have a challenge, are you showing up anyway, or are you retreating? Are you basically putting up a front that's based on excuses because you're afraid? Or maybe you've just decided that you're overwhelmed. And so I ask you again, Do you have the tools and the network and the mentors to help you get through this situation? Or do you feel that it's so overwhelming that it's impacting your entire life in such a way where you're finding it hard to go on and you actually need to get some professional help? So, here are some common excuses for not showing up, and I'm going to read them because there's so many of them. Common excuses. I don't have enough time. I'm too tired. I'm too overwhelmed. Something came up. I'm not ready yet. I'm dealing with too much right now. I'm not motivated anymore. It's harder than I thought. I'm not seeing the results. I don't see the ROI. I don't want to fail. I'm too busy helping others. I didn't feel supported. These are common excuses. Maybe you've used them, maybe you've heard of them, of why people do not keep their commitments. So I always say when someone shows you who they are, then believe them. So recently, I've been in a number of very difficult situations, and I'm actually very proud of myself, not from an ego place, but from a heart centered place, that I continue to deliver on my commitments whereas other people do not. And it's not for me, as Mel Robbins would say, let them. It's not for me to decide or to blame or to judge, nor is it for you. But we're here bettering ourselves. So, this program, if you're watching it live or on the replay or hearing later as a podcast, if you're interested in really getting to know yourself, then you will be able to find peace. That's what I truly believe. When we look in the mirror and we realize we are our best coach, then that's an opportunity for us to reflect and say, you know what? I don't need outside applause. I don't need people to prop me up, to pick me up, to tell me how great I am because I already know. And so, therefore, when we make a commitment to doing something, we actually keep it because we know the only person we're letting down is ourselves. So when we let ourselves down, that is something we have to live with for a long time. Because in most cases, when we let someone else down, typically they'll get over it or they just won't call us anymore. They won't invite us anymore. So I want to start off with before you get into a challenging situation, think about the choices you make and always look at what's the worst case scenario, what's the best case scenario, and then what's really realistic. And so before you commit to doing something, even in the holidays, if you make a commitment to go to two family houses on the same day, causing yourself a lot of stress and maybe your family, your partner, maybe don't do that this year. Maybe make a decision that, you know what, I don't want to let anyone down, but no one's really enjoying themselves by committing to two or three dinners, it's a lunch, a dinner, whatever it is in the same day, and maybe break it up. Maybe set a boundary for yourself so that instead of being under so much pressure during the holidays, you're not going to spend as much money. So, a challenge could be that every year you decide to give gifts to everyone and you really can't afford it. So, you take out the credit card and you just start charging things up. And then in January and February, you're stuck with this huge bill that takes you until the end of the year to pay off. Maybe set some boundaries now with your family and just be realistic and say, you know, this year I'd like to do things differently. Maybe we could do a secret Santa, or maybe we could each make something for each other. Think of ways that you can put yourself first and put yourself forward in a genuine way because people appreciate that. People respect that, especially when it comes to gifts. And this show is not about gifts per se, except the gift that we give to ourselves, which is really respecting ourselves. So before putting yourself in a challenging situation, maybe you ask yourself, do I really want to do this? Is this really worth my time and the upsetment that it's going to cause me later? So it's living with purpose and coming from a place of your heart. And I recently shared with someone, you know, as we get older, our bodies change. They invariably change. Now, of course, there are a few people out there that I don't know what's going on, but kudos to them because they really are defying age. I guess people in the blue zones, et cetera. But for most of us, our body's going to change. Our mind's maybe not going to be as sharp as it used to be, but we still have our heart and we have our spirit. And so the last thing that we want as we get older, in my opinion, is a broken spirit. A broken spirit, meaning that you weren't true in honoring your integrity. You made commitments, you made promises, you didn't deliver on them because you never intended to do it in the first place. So, we already looked at common excuses for not showing up. I want to talk about what showing up really looks like. And I have some bullet points here that I'm going to read. Keeping commitments even when it's inconvenient. So I know for me, there have been a number of times in my life where I committed to doing something. I actually knew I really didn't want to do it, but I did it because I didn't want to let someone down. And now I don't do that anymore. And it's been a shift, and it's been something that people have to get used to, but now people know what to expect, and I know what to expect, and I live in peace. So when I go to sleep at night, I'm able to sleep. There are many times people are tossing and turning and they're up all night, they're worrying because you make commitments that you really didn't intend to keep. You thought maybe I can do it, but when it all was said and done, you really didn't want to do it. So not making commitments that you're not going to keep, that you don't want to keep, inside, if it doesn't feel right. If someone says, hey, would you like to get together and do this, and you say, you know what, yeah, why not, that sounds great, and as soon as it comes out of your mouth, you're thinking, oh, I don't want to do this, and now you're trapped. You feel like you're trapped, right? So what are you going to do? So keeping commitments even when it's inconvenient. The next is communicating clearly and honestly. Thank you so much for thinking of me for that invitation. I really appreciate it. I'm going to pass. No excuse. I teach this in my listening courses. Once you start giving excuses, people start evaluating them. Oh, let's see, she can't come because she said whatever. And a lot of times people will lie. They'll make up an excuse. Well, I'd like to come to your party, but we're entertaining friends. Oh, you didn't invite me? That's interesting. Or we're going somewhere else. And then they find out you didn't go there. Or then you forgot and you posted something on social media at the same time that you were supposed to be doing something with someone else. So lying will catch up. So just be honest and communicate clearly. You don't have to hurt someone's feelings. You don't have to actually give information. Let's say you get invited to someone's dinner and you don't think they're a good cook and you don't want to eat their food. Are you going to say, listen, I'm not going to come to your place because I can't stand your cooking? Of course not. There's nothing that's positive about that. Remember my 3 questions before we speak. Is it kind? Is it necessary? And is it true? If it's not those 3 things in total, do you have to say it? No, you don't have to say it. So if you get invited to a commitment, if you get invited to attend something or work on a project and it's not something that you want to do, just find a way to bow out of it gracefully instead of taking it on. For example, at work, I've heard this story from so many people over the years. They're terrified of losing their job, letting their boss down, letting their team down. So they take on another project. And meanwhile, their spouse, their family is already upset because they don't see them. And now they're working the weekend or now they're working at night. So before you take on that commitment because you're afraid of losing your job, maybe have an open conversation with your supervisor and say, hey, I'd love to know your thoughts about how my work is and what you think of my contributions to this company. Have an honest conversation because maybe your fear is completely unjustified. Maybe it is justified, and maybe your supervisor will have an honest conversation and say, we feel like you could be applying yourself more here, or actually, we have you in mind for another position. Whatever the case may be, you taking on that extra project doesn't definitely mean that you're going to be seen in a more positive way within your organization. So think about that. Have good, clear communication. And going back to the home front, before you take on another project, should you discuss it with your partner? I would think so, unless you want to have a lot of aggravation. I'm all about peace, finding peace. And so that means communicating. The next is being dependable over time. And I want to add something onto this because this, I think, is really key. It is crucial to be dependable and not rub it in someone else's face. The last thing I want to hear from anyone is, oh, I did this and this. You don't have to tell me. I know what you're doing. I'm paying attention. And so when someone has this laundry bag of things that they want to remind me of, I am immediately turned off because I think to myself, you're coming from a place of fear, you're coming from a place of anger, you're coming from a place of insecurity. Because if someone really cares about you, whether it's personally or professionally, they're paying attention to what's going on. They might not know every single little detail. I personally am not a detail person, although I have to be very much in the details and running business from a certain perspective. But at the same time, I'm very strategic. So I know the people who are doing what they said they're going to do. And I know the people who are loyal, and I don't need to be reminded of that. And I want you to think of that too. Are you someone who's constantly reminding other people of all the things that you do for them? If you are, maybe you should stop doing them. Because if you're in a situation with people who respect you and care about you, you don't have to prove that to them. And this is something else that I also find when it becomes challenging is that people feel the need to compete with each other, competing in conversations, competing over the holidays for the best gifts, for the best dinners. We don't have to compete with each other. We can just accept each other for who we are. We each bring different things to this world. And so let's celebrate those things instead of trying to compete with one another. It's one thing if you're a professional athlete, you're in the Olympics, you're playing a professional football game, that's one thing. Okay, but as human beings, we don't have to compare and compete on a regular basis because it's exhausting. We have to show up for ourselves. When we show up for ourselves with integrity, we show up for ourselves with love and compassion, that actually goes out into the universe. When we are showing up in a peaceful way, we're putting peace out into the world. Okay, so let's talk about some of these other things. Taking ownership instead of shifting blame. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone and they consistently are blaming other people? Maybe they're blaming the weather, they're blaming the president, they're blaming the economy. They're always blaming someone or something instead of taking accountability for their own behavior. And so what I've started doing is I call people out on their stuff, just like I'd want someone to call me out on my stuff. I call people out on their stuff and I'll say, listen, have you looked at your behavior? You said you were going to do this, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and you didn't do it. And so I want to bring up another topic because I think this is really important. There's different ways of making commitments. You can have a conversation with someone. In business, you can have a verbal handshake agreement, a handshake, and you can also have contracts. And so anytime you engage in any of these 3 things, I want you to think about this. When you sign a contract, you are making a commitment to do something. And if you decide to break the contract, there are typically terms and conditions that apply. They apply to you, the one who has decided to sign the contract. So I have heard from people, everything I do revolves around contracts because I have people on my team from all over the world. People of different cultures, speak different languages. It's very clear when you have a contract, then there are the ramifications. And so I have had people come back to me and say, oh, I guess you're not my friend anymore. I'm sorry, you signed the contract. You broke the agreement. That has nothing to do with friendship. That has to do with you not keeping your word. And so I call people out on this, just like you can call people out on it. If someone says to you, I'm going to be there for you through thick and through thin, think to yourself, is this actually possible? Okay, you have to actually quantify things. When people make statements like, I promise to be with you till the day I die, right? When people get married. Okay, I personally don't believe in that. So you can think what you will about me. I think it is almost virtually impossible to be there for another person every day of your life when you haven't learned how to show up for yourself. So if you are at peace, you feel you are complete, then you can be a complete person for someone else. There's not the I'm looking for my better half because we're actually whole people. We can't be a half person looking for a half person. And the same thing applies when it comes to challenges. Okay. When you are not in the frame of mind to take on a challenge or an invitation, that is up to you. The red flag take a step back and take a breath and say, you know what? I'm not feeling up to taking anything else on right now. That's very mature and it's very professional. But there are times when we're so overwhelmed. And again, during the holidays, when we're overwhelmed, we have so much to do. We're still doing everything we always do. Then maybe you're decorating. Maybe you are traveling to go see your family. Maybe you have to buy presents. Maybe you're cooking. Whatever the case may be, there's a lot more stress. But you have a choice. And I know you don't believe this because people will say to me, but it's what I've always done. That doesn't mean you have to do it anymore. Every day that you wake up, you get a choice. And the choice is this serving me? And I'll give an example. I'm a peace ambassador. And so I'm on my third round of peace training. And so far, the training, it's all voluntary. The training always takes place on a Saturday. And people have said to me, how could you give up a Saturday? Not just one Saturday, many Saturdays for 2 or 3 hours. How could you give up your Saturdays to take peace ambassador training? Well, because I said I would do it. I said I would do it as a peace ambassador. And I certainly don't know everything about being a peace ambassador. We have people from all over the world on these calls talking about violence in the country, people afraid for their life every day, afraid to even be on camera. And I think to myself, I get to make choices every day about how I'm going to live. The least I can do is show up as my commitment as a peace ambassador so that I can be there for another human, so that I can learn and so I can pass on what I'm learning to other people. So making a commitment doesn't mean it has to be fulfilled with payment in terms of cash currency. But what I'm getting from taking the Peace Ambassador training is literally priceless. Because to learn about what's going on in other parts of the world, we've got mainstream media, which I don't follow at all. I don't watch television. I have 4 televisions. I don't turn any of the 3 on. The one I have on Amazon Fire, and I will watch our shows, and I watch some other shows, but I don't watch mainstream media. And I've actually taken training on fake news, and it's amazing how much fake news is actually out there. But people will use the television as an excuse. I'm so traumatized by what I saw on TV. I'm so traumatized by what's going on in the government. They're excuses that you don't want to fulfill your commitment. Because remember what I said from the beginning. If you're in a situation where you are so overwhelmed and you don't have tools that you can access, you don't have mentors, you don't have coaches, you don't have a network, you can't go on YouTube and find videos, self-help videos, you can't go to a library and get self-help books. If you feel that you have literally no way forward to help yourself, then it's time to get professional help. But for every other one of us, we have so many resources to help us that we can't use people and circumstances as excuses of why we are not honoring our commitments. Because we get a choice, and the choice is we can say, no, I choose not to participate. So, one thing about me I'll share is I have never been a person who likes to stay out late at night. I don't like to go to parties. When I was young, very, very, very young and of age, I went to discos. You couldn't pay me to go to a nightclub. I have no interest in going to a party because in my mind, parties are filled with drugs. That's just in my mind. That doesn't mean that it's true. I have no interest in drugs. I have no interest in having meaningless conversation. I'd much rather be focused on my work and my platform and my teaching and my speeches. That really brings me joy. So I would not accept an invitation if someone said, hey, we have this party that's taking place. My answer will always be thank you, but I will not be attending. And so people don't ask me anymore because they know I'm not going. But many people would feel that they'd have to say yes because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings. And then they get there and they're in a situation and they feel very uncomfortable. So my situation today at 62 years of age is if I'm invited to something, not a party, but let's say I'm invited to a wedding or some kind of formal function, I will let the host know that most likely I will not be staying for the entire event. And if that is a problem, I will not go. So I've set a boundary because I just know how I am. I am not going to be sitting there for 4 hours having small talk and then dancing. And then it's just not me. So I don't accept those kinds of invitations. Now, when it comes to work, I get invited to do a lot of things. I get invited to be involved in a lot of things. And so I actually am at the point where I will say thank you for the invitation, but it's not in alignment with where I'm going or the direction I'm moving forward in. And that's not to insult anyone, but I've learned to set those boundaries. So I want to share a little bit more about when quitting is different than a boundary. So you're quitting something, is it an excuse or is it a boundary? Let's talk about that. And I've got some notes. Okay. When is it okay to say, you know what, I'm no longer going to do this? I made a commitment to doing it, but I'm now not going to do it anymore. First of all, if it is going to impact your health, your safety, or your well being, you absolutely have every right to say, you know what? Guess what? I know I signed up for this, but it's just not working. And I'll give an example. Let's say you are in an environment and there's a lot of smoke. There is cigarette smoke, there's marijuana smoke, there's pollution, whatever it is. And you can feel it, you can breathe it, it's coming in. And you can say to yourself, you know what? This doesn't work for me. You don't have to say anything negative to the person, but you just know in your own heart. And this is me, by the way. I used to be the person who would go up to people on the beach and say, can you please put your cigarette out? That's how crazy I was. So I will not be in a situation where there is smoke because it's not safe. It's not safe. My father struggled to breathe. So therefore, I'm not going to be putting myself in any scenario where there are cigarettes, marijuana, or any kind of drugs. That to me is a safety issue. Now, let's think about something else. I had taken a spin class and the music was so loud. And the instructor even said, there are earplugs that you can put in for the class. And I thought to myself, why would I want to put in something to protect my ears? Why is your music so loud? So I already had signed up for it. And if if you leave, then you can't make a reservation for a week. So I thought, okay, I'll put the things in my ears. I couldn't believe how loud the music was. And so my mother lost her hearing. And so I was her primary caretaker. So I had to she had hearing in one ear. I had to make sure she could hear what I was saying. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to jeopardize losing my hearing for this class. So I decided I'm not going back to that class, and I have not gone back. So there are some examples about when it can affect your health, that it's okay to say, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. Okay. The next is the relationship, job, or commitment is extremely disrespectful or toxic. So you sign a contract for work and you are being sexually harassed, or you sign a contract for work and the environment that you're working in is unsafe, it's unhealthy, it's filled with negativity. You can raise your hand and say, you know what? It doesn't serve me to work in this environment anymore because it's affecting your health. That is an absolute reason to say, I'm quitting this. And by the way, it's not even I'm quitting this, I'm choosing me. I'm choosing me, and I choose to put myself in another environment. Okay. The next thing is you have communicated your needs. So you've gone to your boss, for example, and you've said, listen, I want to make you aware of something. There's a lot of sexual innuendo going on in the cafeteria or the water cooler, or this one particular person is always making comments that I feel are just uncomfortable for me. And if your supervisor, by the way, I think in the United States, they have a responsibility to report it to HR, but I think if you have shared your feelings and nothing is being done about it, you absolutely have the right to say, this is not the right work environment for me. If you're in a relationship where you decided to move in with someone, or maybe you bought a home with someone, and by the way, Judge Judy has said over the years that you should never buy a home with someone unless you are married. So I don't know if she still feels that way, but I used to watch her show all the time. Great show, wonderful woman. Okay, so you decide to buy a house with someone, or you decide to move in with someone, and you're getting beat up verbally, physically, whatever the case may be. Or maybe the person you're living with is doing things in the home that are unsafe. They are selling drugs out of the house, for example. I'm giving extreme examples. And you say to yourself, I can't be in this situation. Well, you made a commitment. You said you're going to pay for half of the rent. Well, guess what? I'm out. That's before you started doing X, Y, and Z that totally changed the dynamics. These are situations, while they might sound extreme, they do happen, where you can raise your hand and say, you know what? This doesn't serve me anymore. Let's say you're a religious person and you go to church, you go to synagogue, wherever it is that you go, and all of a sudden they start teaching things that you don't believe in, that you don't feel comfortable with, that are against your religious beliefs. You could be open minded and say, you know what? I'm going to choose to learn. Or you may say to yourself, you know what? I'm so upset with the way I feel about this that I'm choosing to leave. Okay, so you want to make sure that when you're leaving or you're actually quitting something, that you're quitting it with clarity, that it's not an emotional response. It's not something that just came up for you, that you've been feeling this for a while and you feel that it's no longer a good fit. And I think we can all resonate with that. You've been in a situation, you've tried to make it work, but it just doesn't work. And now it's more work than it's worth. You have every right to set a boundary and say, this isn't for me. So, what are we talking about today as we kind of bring the show to a close? What we're talking is making commitments and keeping them versus just deciding you're not going to show up. You're just quitting because you're making an excuse for yourself. And by making the excuse for yourself, that is very different than being in an environment that's unhealthy, by being in an environment where you don't feel that you can actually contribute because you feel your safety or your health is being threatened. They're very different situations. So, before we make a commitment, when we are coming from a place of love, we are not afraid to say no. We're not afraid to say, thank you for thinking of me, but it doesn't fit. When people say this to me, it's almost like a breath of fresh air because I'm not going to hear a bunch of excuses. And what do I mean by that? So I do a lot of prospecting, especially at the end of this year, every year when we're looking to bring on new TV show hosts. So I do prospecting on LinkedIn. That's my go-to. And I'll do a lot of research before I reach out to someone. And if someone says to me, I'm too busy, I think to myself, excellent, next, because I know it's a matter of numbers. When someone says to me, I don't know that this is a good fit, next, doesn't work. So it saves me time and it saves them time because we don't feel that there's an alignment. If you have to sell someone on something, it's probably not a good fit. I think at this stage of life, I have a pretty good sense of who is going to be doing what and how they're going to be showing up. But when you don't know someone and you're blind cold calling, for example, you don't know what to expect. But as I get to know people, I pretty much know who's going to be a good fit because they're coachable. If someone's not coachable, they're probably not a good fit. I'm very coachable. And so it's a matter of feedback. So to sum it up, before we put ourselves into any kind of situation, really think about it. Is it something you really want to do? Are you going to be able to wake up tomorrow and look in the mirror and say, you know what? I really screwed up that one. I never should have done that. You're going to start calling people on the phone and go, I don't know what to do. I said I'd go to this. I said I'd do this. I said I'd lend money. It doesn't work. You're making yourself sick. You're making yourself crazy. Just set a boundary. And then when you've made a commitment to do something that you really wanted to do, keep your word. Do the best that you can to keep your word. And the last thing is, no one, I promise you, wants to hear a bunch of excuses. If you can't do it, you call up the person and you say, you know what? I told you I could do this, but now my circumstances have changed and I'm unable to do it. No explanation. The reason is no one cares about the explanation. All they know is you said you were in and now you're out. And sometimes that happens. But once you give the explanation, what did I say? What do I always say? People start evaluating it. So now it's not just that you're not going to do it. Now they're looking at the reasons that you're not going to do it. And now this is where people start gossiping. Can you believe that she said she's not going to do this because of this, this, and this? Don't even give them the reason to gossip. I'm really sorry. My circumstances have changed. That's it. And it really takes self control to just stop it right there. And I'll give an example. One of the requirements that I have for people who join our team is they have to take my course, Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. And frequently, I get pushback from people. And here's what I hear: I have a master's degree, I have a doctorate, I've been teaching communication for years, I'm a full professor. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. You still have to take the course. What do you mean? Why would I have to take the course? Because it's a requirement and because it's likely that you could learn something. I'm not going to learn anything. What's the first thing I hear from that? Not coachable. Coming from a place of ego. Think they know everything. Not interested. So therefore, I've set that boundary, and it's sometimes difficult because people will push on it. But I need to keep my integrity that this platform is based on elevated listening. And if I start giving little passes to people, then the whole thing will fall. So there are a lot of decisions that I have to make that are not easy. They're not always pretty. But at the end of the day, I can look in the mirror and say, I gave it my best. I did the best. And that doesn't mean that the other person thinks that or they feel that. But I know in my heart, coming from a place of love, that that's what my intentions were. So my intentions now are to wish you a beautiful rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, wherever it is that you are. And we'll be back. I was out of the country for almost a month, and it was difficult to do this show because I was 7 hours ahead, but I'm back. So I will be here on a regular basis. My video says that I'm here every night. So I think I'm going to be changing that to 5 days a week, because honestly, with everything that I'm doing for my two businesses, every night is a little difficult because I still have about 4 hours of work to do. So making a commitment means that I can't be here every night. So I'm just being honest with you about that. I'm going to work to be here 5 nights a week, but it will not be 7. So think about how you can make your life easier by not committing and under delivering. So we want to deliver on our commitments. And when we're not able to, because let's be honest, things do come up in life. You might not feel well one day. You might have a family emergency. Okay. These are things that are real. And you have to be able to deliver the information to the person who's expecting something from you as soon as possible. As soon as you get the information, let them know, hey, I know you were counting on me to do this or that. Unfortunately, I have a situation I have to deal with. Again, no explanation, 0. I'm sorry, but I cannot honor my commitment this time. That's it. So I hope that helps you. I hope you have some really good heart to heart with yourself and think about beyond challenges, showing up anyway. The difference between when you're actually making an excuse or you're quitting for a good reason, like your sanity, your safety, or your health. Thank you so much. What I'd like to do right now is, it's just going to take me a minute to bring it up, but I've recorded a music video with my dear friend, Dr. Madeline Chan, and it's called Please Listen to Me. And here it is. I'm going to play it now. Let's take a look. You can buy this. You can download it over on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and you can also watch it again on YouTube. But the downloads would be great because I get 70 cents of every download. Yay! At least that's what I'm told. Okay, here we go.
The moon is a spotlight. The sun's on the stage. The world's got some good seats, but nobody stays. They get their opinions. I've got mine too. So, darling, please listen to what I say. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. If our love isn't true, what can I do? Reinventing myself, letting go of you. I've got a confession, just a thought or two. Darling, I'm better off without you. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. You got the power. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. No need to hide. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. Girl on fire. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. You got the power. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. No need to hide. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. Girl on fire. Listen to what I say. Listen to what I say. Listen to what I say.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.